Okay, thank you very much. Hello and good morning. I'm going to kill all of the energy and enthusiasm that's in the room by trying to talk to you about the English planning system. Is that okay? Okay. So yes, I run an architecture practice called DKCM. I teach architecture at Kingston University and the Royal College of Art, and I'm halfway through a PhD called Making Planning Popular, also at the Royal College of Art. And what I want to show you today is, I suppose, my idea about planning and how it needs to change in the UK, not just in the UK, but particularly in the UK, and a kind of ongoing project I'm doing as part of the PhD by practice, which I hope addresses that need. This is most people's experience of the planning system. It's a rubber stamp saying approved or rejected in relation to something that they really, really want to happen or something that they really, really want to stop. That's our experience of planning as a system is hugely binary in this way, and usually, well, this slide for me kind of represents our the closest we ever get really to how the future of the built environment is decided. We get the rubber stamp, or the virtual version of the rubber stamp these days. This obviously is a necessary kind of front line, I suppose, for how planning works. It's the coal face, if you like, but. Obviously, what this kind of hides, or what kind of lurks behind this, is an extraordinary tool, potentially, if not always in practice, for deciding the future of our built environment. Planning, regardless of how kind of ineffectual or kind of disconnected from us that it may seem at the moment, is this incredible tool. The way we plan says a lot about ourselves as a society. It's the same as the kind of political model we adopt as a society. Our rules for deciding the future, I think, say a lot about us. So very simply, different kinds of planning as a practice produce different kinds of place. Here are some places. They're a little bit redder than they were on my screen. This is Bologna, obviously famous for being this extraordinary colonnaded medieval town. This place exists because of one planning rule. In the mid-15th century, Bologna obviously was one of the world's kind of first universities. They had a massive influx of students from all over Europe and beyond to study at Bologna. And overnight, the city authorities said, okay, we're going to let everyone build on the front of their houses to accommodate the growing population, but they can't do it at ground level. And so overnight, the entire city got colonnaded like this as a result of that rule. So one simple rule about accommodating a growing population created the character of a whole place. And that's a very old engraving of Bologna, and you can see the arcades there. Yes. Okay, this is an aerial view of Paris. This is a city made by a military engineer. Baron Haussmann came back from various bits of the Napoleonic War and was instructed by Napoleon III to rebuild the whole city, and he did it like this. Boulevard, which is what all of these are, is a military term. It's about ramparts and about the military being able to move easily through space. The new streets carved through Paris in the 19th century were the right width for a military garrison to move. They also went directly through most of the working class areas where the ferment of earlier revolutions had started. This is Bath. Bath was made entirely by speculative developers. There was no plan other than the plan of the developers to make money by creating pleasure for the emerging middle classes. So all of those forms, and it's true, all of those forms and joys are entirely speculative. A bit like here. This is Dubai, and again, the plan here is really one of kind of serving the kind of commercial needs of the day. And this is the outskirts of Caracas in Venezuela. This is a planning model based entirely on kind of ad hoc negotiation. This is a kind of interpersonal planning model. Some people say there's no planning here. I say there's a kind of particularly complex and interesting kind of planning here, where pretty much, well, I think that's all I need to say. So, just to kind of reiterate this, I guess every planning model is political. Every planning model creates a relationship between the individual and the collective. A planning model that favours one person or one part of society will inevitably see a lack of rights for someone else. And if we think about everything that planning could be, not planning as it's currently practiced, but planning as it could be, the current rhetoric around planning seems very disappointing. Here's Cameron standing in front of a very typical house. There are all sorts of things bouncing around about planning at the moment. 40% of local authorities are Conservative controlled, and 72% of neighbourhood planning frontrunners are within these authorities. That's not necessarily a problem, but what that means is that the kind of rhetoric of localism, the rhetoric of neighbourhood planning is entirely party political, or it's at least 72% party political. The changes that are being proposed by the current government are kind of interesting in their way, but fundamentally they are kind of reforms serving short-term party political needs. So my contention, which is obviously the name of the PhD, Making Planning Popular, I suggest planning must be made popular. That's popular in both senses of the word. That is popular as in liked, and it's popular as in of the people, as in popular culture. The contention here is that planning has, over time, become something that is a plaything of party politics. It's a system which we all participate in, but we never do, actually. And that this needs to change through a shift in where knowledge of planning resides. Currently, if you have the power and the money to access knowledge about planning, you can get it. If you don't, you can't. And in my practice, if I was independently wealthy, I could spend my entire life helping people with planning problems who can't afford to pay a planning consultant. Obviously, that would kind of rapidly bankrupt me. So what's needed is systemic change. And so rather than bankrupting myself that way, I'm bankrupting myself by doing a PhD on planning and trying to seek a systemic change, instead of a incremental one. Planning should be something that people understand, like, and do. I recently was involved in a kind of campaign to save a pub, and there was every time a key moment happened in relation to the process of this pub suffering through the planning system. Everyone kind of came back to me with a whole list of things that were completely wrong in terms of what was happening. And that's not their fault, but it's a major problem. We are so divorced from the actual processes and procedures. And we are, but also local councillors are. I don't know if you've ever been to a planning committee, but it's very rare to see local councillors who understand the power of what they're doing. So currently, planning is something done by planners, and people are invited into it at key points decided by the planners and the consultants, like me. And what I want is for those two things to be put together. Now, no one's got time to plan all the time. I haven't, and certainly the rest of society hasn't. However, when we need to plan, when we need to have access to our rights in relationship to the built environment, we really need to be able to get planning quickly. So my vision of a popular planning is one that resides in popular culture. Robert Fisk argues that popular culture is a very, very powerful political tool, but it operates on the level of micropolitics. It happens in small-scale, incremental, very, very hard-to-measure ways. And that's the model that I've adopted for my proposals for planning. Here are some cool badges to represent popular culture. More exactingly, there have been moments in the history of planning in England in the 20th century where really interesting things have happened. This is an amazing thing that didn't quite work, but it was a very brave effort by the Popular Planning Unit running in the GLC in the late 70s, early 80s, where the people of Silvertown and the Royal Docks created a whole alternative planning document and used this as a way of arguing back against national government policies for the area. And the urgency of this, the urgency of us needing to understand planning on a kind of regular and incremental level is underlined by a bit of research I did a couple of years ago. This is a diagram about the inevitability of tall buildings in Bishopsgate in Shoreditch. I'm sure many of you know the kind of tall buildings that are marching up the road from the City of London. Those things have been inevitable. Well, they started being talked about in about 1995, and they're now at kind of all levels of planning. The inevitability of tall buildings has got to the point, well, where it is inevitable, I suppose. And of course, what happens is that people start complaining right at the end of the process, when it becomes public and when people know that there's something happening. By that point, it's usually too late. What happened in Covent Garden in the 70s when the market left and when the GLC wanted to bulldoze the whole thing and put a shopping centre and major motorway through Covent Garden, what happened at that point was that there was a relatively engaged group who knew at the scale of an area draft plan that that was going to happen. So the outcry happened in time in order to do something about it, rather than when a developer was already on board and had concrete proposals. So the first thing I've been working on for the last few years is a database of popular planning techniques. The idea is that we've got very, very settled in a particular way of planning in the UK. We need to kind of grow up a bit and see other models. This is a little exhibition I did at the RCA a couple of years ago. You can recognize the Bologna drawing there. And I've been collating, weirdly, on little paper index cards, so I'm the least up-to-date PhD researcher I've met. But kind of a whole database of popular planning techniques. Here's a few of them. The Fino is a thing in the Arabic Islamic city where there are no rules for the space between your house and the street, so entire businesses can run. And that's what results in the particular organic shape of the Arabic Islamic city. This is a fantastic thing called the One Night House, which is a rule that's emerged in various cultures around the world, and it's still practiced in various places. And it's the rule that if you can build a house between dusk and dawn on common land, you can keep it. There's a fantastic film called Il Tetto by Vittorio De Sica, who did Bicycle Thieves, which explains this thing. What I'm doing at the moment is making this database of popular planning techniques useful. How many people have seen this website? Useful research, thank you very much. This is the planning portal. It's existed in various forms through various governments, actually. It's the tool through which you find out about planning currently in the UK. This is a screen grab from it. It's full of adverts for garden gates and solar panels and things. If I go to here because I want to expand my house because of a growing family, or to stop some evil person knocking down my local pub, this tool does not show me how to do those things. In many ways, it's quite a work of art. This website, it is quite well done, but it's also hugely party political. This website changed overnight when Labour government became coalition government. All of the terminology changed immediately because of a totally different vision of what planning could be, as we've seen rolled out in society since. So what I'm trying to do, and this is my elevator pitch, is to knock off the planning portal from the #1 spot when you Google planning in Britain. And that is through a website called Building Rights. This is not the website. The website doesn't exist yet. I'm working on it currently. But the idea is to produce an alternative place where planning knowledge resides, a place where a virtual place, I suppose, but a place where expertise on planning, amateur expertise. I have rescued my local pub. This is how you might use the same techniques. How the database of things and techniques that are lost to us, but which are quite amazing, and where, indeed, professional planners, who are all lovely people, by the way, can offer advice outside of the party political system and the existing system of planning. So it's a great leveler of planning knowledge. The way it works, or the way it will work when I've figured it out, is it's very similar to a programmer's website called Stack Exchange, which is like a kind of, a more sophisticated version of Yahoo Answers, where questions are asked, questions are rated for their quality, and responses are also rated for their quality. So there's a kind of evaluation of the quality of knowledge. And the idea, again, on the basis of kind of popular culture being micro-political and being slow, is that here, in this place, knowledge about planning can grow and gradually shift the culture such that planning knowledge exists not just in the council chamber and in the planning department, but in society at large. That isn't an anti-planning argument, but I know and have friends with many planners. However, currently in our system, the planning process is the same if you want to build a porch on your house as it is if you want to build an airport. The basic model is the same. And through the micro-political process, we can shift that to make the building of the airport a bit more intelligent. So these are some more screen grabs. This thing doesn't exist. There's lots of lovely graphic designers, called Europa, and web developers working on this for me, with me, I should say, collaborative sense. We're hoping to launch it next year. What's interesting about this is it's about this is also about kind of free knowledge in a way, free in all senses of the word. And there's a sense that, I've spoken to planners about this, and there's a sense that actually they would really like to spend their evenings on their way home on their iPhone, offering actual useful advice rather than being couched in the kind of in the bureaucracy of the moment in their kind of more daily lives. That's me done. Thank you very much.